with a situation like this. You've got several different things that have compounded on top of each other. You may have a subject matter expert in one thing or two of the things, but definitely not three of the things. So, it took us a little bit. When you go from local to state to federal government and bringing resources in, there's a process that has to take place. It took a couple of weeks to get the Environmental Protection Agency on site due to some of the legalities. And we have worked on a plan together that we think is going to work. We have the confidence in Chuck and his team and contractors that are coming in. Like I said, we have joined our incident management teams. We've made those introductions. We are working on a common path together, and you'll hear what that path is. So before we move on, I'm going to invite Catalina up to do some interpretation, and she will be available afterwards in case that's needed.
Bienvenidos esta tarde. Estamos aquí para hablar sobre el plan que va a ser implementado en lo que está ocurriendo en la casa de Applegate, y voy a estar aquí para cualquier persona que necesita interpretación en español.
All right, so thank you very much, and I'm going to introduce Chuck Berry with the Environmental Protection Agency to go through. We will kind of bounce back and forth on each other. We've got a short presentation, and then we'll take your questions.
Thanks a lot, Jody. I appreciate it. Let me try and get the microphone about the right distance. So I appreciate it. Again, my name is Chuck Berry from the U.S. EPA's Region 4 office in Atlanta. I may come as a surprise, but EPA actually maintains a pretty large contingent of actual responders. We're not just a bunch of paper pushers, permit processing in our offices. There's about 250 on-scene coordinators like myself nationwide, and we go out and supplement resources for local and state programs and for responsible parties who can't achieve their own cleanup goals. So I myself have got about 25 years in this industry, and I will say in that 25 years, I've never seen anything like this. This is certainly unique, and Jody hit the nail on the head when there's no subject matter expert for all of it. We've had to bring together a team of subject matter experts in a lot of little individual things and get them all together in one room or one Zoom meeting and talk about exactly what we're going to do. So with that, we've developed a plan. Many of you have probably already heard about it. We plan on dismantling the building, starting with the roof and the walls. The word dismantle is important. We're not demolishing the building. Demolishing implies we just back an excavator up to it and crush it. You can do that in about 3 hours. This is going to take a little more finesse. We're going to start taking the roof and the walls off because that's going to allow us to fight a fire inside the building. We'll talk about some of those here in a minute. The contents are then going to be removed out of the building little bit by little bit and processed in a steel tank buried in the ground in the backyard. Then it'll be shipped off for disposal somewhere when we can find a facility that's willing to accept it based upon what our analytical tests say of it before we ship it. But there are 3 areas that we have risk for, okay? And we want to come here and talk to y'all about that and talk about how the ways that we're going to mitigate those risks and lower them low enough so that we feel comfortable doing the work. If we didn't think we could do the work safely, we wouldn't be doing it, but there are still risks, and we want to talk about them and talk about what Louisville Metro has got as far as an evacuation plan and how we need your help. I just want to say thanks for showing up, because this is a case where we really cannot implement this plan without the public. You are a part of the plan whether you know it or not, and we need your participation in it because you're going to be called on to do something. Well, hopefully you will not be called on to do anything, but you may, and so we want to talk about what those are. The first risk we have at the site is from detonations. Well, we do know that the owner made homemade explosives at the site, shock-sensitive explosives. He also is a hoarder, and there are lots of containers of unknown white powders throughout the house, probably somewhere between 500 and 1,000 little bottles, all about that big, just shoved in every place. Nobody wants to open the bottles up and figure out what's in them, so we have to do something with them, and that means the crush box. We have to crush them, because if they are an explosive, I can't put them on the road and ship them somewhere. Nobody wants them, and they might blow up in the truck. We have to crush the containers open and mix those potential explosives with some sort of dilutant, in this case soil, and just get them to the point where they don't sustain a reaction. But if you crush a container under pressure, that's a shock. it may go pop or bang or something while we're working. So that's actually part of our process. That's not a mistake. It's a feature, not a glitch. You may hear us having bangs while we're working over there if we do run into explosives. However, we don't think any of those are going to be big enough to impact the local neighbors. But just because we're working on very low risk and eliminating very low risk, we're going to build a wall of container boxes around the perimeter of the property to deflect any lateral blast that might come out. Our box is buried in the ground, which gives it greater vertical lift and less out. Hopefully we can deflect most of the blast upward instead of out into the neighboring properties. We do not anticipate a need for an evacuation if there is some sort of detonation. Hopefully it'll be contained within the house. But again, I have said several times that we've seen a lot of pops and bangs, but we haven't yet seen anything that goes boom in his house. He has not had enough volume in one location. There are a lot of unknowns at this site, and we're prepared for just about everything, though. Our second issue that we may have are chemical reactions. And just like the explosives, we know, we are 100% certain that we are going to have chemical reactions on site. It's a part of the process. But we want to limit the scope of those reactions. We want to make sure that just a little bit of those are reacting off at any one time. And we will do that by only pulling a little bit of material out of the house at any one time. This crush box process is pretty common at EPA sites. Whenever we have large volumes of a large number of small volume containers, we find it just a lot easier to crush them all together before we ship them off. It saves time and labor and a lot of money in the long run. In this case, though, the box is going to be only have a few things in it at once. Normally, we would put a lot in it and crush it just to speed up, but we're working in an industrial area or out in the middle of nowhere where there aren't any targets around. The proximity to the local houses gives us pause for doing that. We want to use very little material at a time to make sure that any reactions that do occur dissipate before they get to the property boundary. We're setting up a multi-layered air monitoring system around the property. We're going to have an air monitoring suite of instruments at the crush box to monitor what's going on right there and protect our workers. We're also going to have another suite at the property perimeter and then located between the neighboring houses, the ones that are most immediate and adjacent. It's only if something goes off at those perimeter that we're going to become nervous and then monitor. And Jody's crew will be on site helping us monitor those, and it'll be Louisville Metro that then implements any reaction, public reaction to that, either an evacuation or shelter-in-place order. We do not expect this to happen, though, because as soon as we get a detection at the perimeter, we're going to immediately smother the reaction with a load of dirt, keep it from reacting on, and keep any off gases contained there locally, and try and make sure that those fugitive vapors don't get past the property perimeter. Our last one, though, is fire. And this has always been the big one and the hardest one for us to overcome, because a fire would be catastrophic, and it would not just affect the people locally around the property, but would affect people at several blocks away at a minimum. And so the risk of fire in this case is not zero. We've known that all along, but again, like everything else, we're taking mitigation steps to cut down that risk and at least manage it to the point where we feel like if something does happen, we can get on it quickly and we can stop it before the fire becomes structural, before the building itself catches on fire. First way we're going to do that is by having Fern Creek Fire on site to support us. They'll have a unit there on site, a truck with a hose out over the building all the time, ready to go to work if something has to happen. They'll know when to go to work because we're also going to have an infrared camera positioned on another boom mast over the house, monitoring the house at all times to see what we can't, temperature variations in the material in the house. If we notice a temperature spike, we're going to take action. Our first action be to get whatever it is out of the house. We have an excavator on site, and that is one of the best tools for fighting a fire in terms of debris burning, is to get it and spread it out where you can fight it outside of the house so it doesn't propagate. So we do feel that these tactics are going to reduce the likelihood of it becoming structural and going on to the rest of the building and necessitating an evacuation. But just like all of these, if something's reacting inside of our box, and there's a high likelihood it will, we may just let it burn. It's better burning there than it is on the truck going down the highway. And so you may see smoke from time to time. You may smell it. If you have not gotten an alert, and Jody, you'll go through that alert for it, then you don't need to take an action. We're monitoring what's coming off. If the smoke or whatever is thick, or what, we're going to drench that too. Neighborhood logistics. We're going to start Monday with the site setup. We're going to start moving equipment on site. It's going to get loud and there's going to be traffic. We will, however, work as fast as we can. And that means we're going to work 7 days a week, 10-hour days, try and get, well, I think I only have 9. We may work longer. I think the time changes the end of the month, doesn't it? So we may be able to stay within daylight savings before we get to this. So, Jody, you want to talk about traffic control?
Yeah, so we've come up with a plan. I know many of you have been inconvenienced because of the local access traffic that we've done in the past, having to take your ID out, every time you came and went. So we've got access passes that I'll be delivering tomorrow personally to the addresses on Applegate and on the court that's directly next to 6211. I've talked to many, if not all, the neighbors about how many passes they need to get inside. We'll also let the security know that if there's any deliveries, obviously the mail, garbage, we want buses to be able to go through. So we've created a list of agencies. And then, like I said, you'll just show that local access pass. We've made it. It says Applegate Pass on it. And I'll have those out to you all tomorrow that you can use, since it's going to be potentially a 3-week process for them to set up and then get this mitigated.
Yeah, thanks. And we know for it being potentially 3 weeks that it's important that y'all continue to get your deliveries and stuff delivered. A lot of residents have medications delivered, and you still need to get services into your home. The bus needs to get by, the mail got to get delivered, and so forth. And we want to try and ease the burden on the local community as much as we can by doing that.
And if there's something that comes up like a plumbing issue or an electric issue, and you have to have a contractor come into your house, you'll have several of our contacts on the fact sheet that you can pick up. There's contacts. Let us know that so that we can be aware of people coming into your house to take care of problems that you may have that could arise in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the processing of the material I estimate about 10 days. I'll admit, though, this is a pretty novel process, and the speed at which we do it will be dictated by the reactions that we see whenever we start processing it. And we may have to let stuff react off for a few minutes at a time, and it might slow us down. This is an estimate. It may go much quicker and it may go much longer. I'm not going to wed myself to the date of October 27. So we'll work as fast as we can. Just promise you that we're working as fast and as safely as we can.
All right, so the EPA has done some calculations based on what they feel like is the worst case scenario that could be in the house as far as chemicals and then the smoke that could be produced in case of a fire. And if you notice this, and there's a map outside and there's also a map on a flyer that you can take with you, the evacuation zone has significantly shrunk from what we had said earlier based on if we had to do a burn, which is a good thing. Obviously, it's bad for the people in here, but we're developing a plan, or we have developed a plan for those people. We've talked to those people. We've got a designated area that we can that we'll tell you to go before the process starts. But if you can see the picture on the left is just of the house, and it's a very small area around that. It only captures about 6 or 8 houses in that evacuation zone. So this isn't an evacuation that you're going to have to do every day. This is an evacuation only if something happens. And again, we've talked to these neighbors. The houses that are outlined in yellow is our shelter-in-place zone. So these are the people that would shelter in place in the case of a small controllable fire and or a chemical reaction that could potentially get outside of the confines of the area. So it's again significantly reduced. The picture on the right is a little bit bigger of an area. It's still smaller than our original area, but it's a little bit bigger. If you're in this area, all we ask you to do is to know what a shelter in place is. We've got the definition of an evacuation, the definition of a shelter in place on the fact sheet that's out there that you can take with you. We just want you to know, hey, this is what I do if by some chance, because we've got wind speed and direction, we've got temperature, we've got cloud cover and other things that can create this or make this go a little bit bigger. So we just ask that you know what to do in case we ask for a shelter in place. And again, you have a map that you can take with you.
you want to talk about the pause and everything?
Yeah, so we've already created a text group, and that's the immediate neighbors on Applegate and the court that's beside 6211, Maple Grove, is that right? Maple. So we've already been communicating with them throughout the process, letting them know what's going on. We ask always people to sign up for Lens Alert, our Louisville emergency notification system. Go on there, sign up for it. You're not only going to receive alerts for this, but any weather emergencies, other hazardous materials, or any other things that we need to get out to you in case of an emergency. And you can sign up for those. You can get them by text, email, phone call, however you'd like to get them. The other way that we'll communicate, especially with this larger area, is similar to the alert that you got yesterday from the federal government. It's called the iPause alert, or the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. We have the ability and have purchased the rights here with Metro Government where we can send those out. So we have already drawn a geospatial area to match this, and we can get that alert to the people inside of there, as well as the people that come inside of there. So if we set that alert for 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever the duration is, if you've got somebody that's coming home or you're coming home, as soon as you break the plane of that alert, you'll get that alert. So that's the benefit of having that. So it's similar to the alert you had yesterday. If there's anybody that didn't get that alert yesterday, look into your phone, because somehow you've turned that off, and we encourage you to turn that back on.
And that's all. That's all of the plan. It will take us a while to do it. We'll certainly will answer any questions y'all have. Not only mine, Jody here, Chief Mulvaney from Fern Creek Fire is here. We have representatives KDEP as well. So if you have any questions for us, let us know. Yes, sir. When we leave the site, all the structural material will be gone, all the block, all the brick, everything will be off the site. We'll fill the hole in, and we will plant some grass. Oh. Anyone else? Wow, that's cool.
So the first question is, will mail or deliveries be able to get through? So we mentioned that. We will let the security at both ends let them know who can come into the area. Has the homeowner's lawsuit concerning the property been settled? I'm not aware of that at all.
If you have any questions, just put your hand up.
Yeah, we're a small group. We can.
Yeah. Right here.
Oh, okay.
When you open this roof up and it starts raining, we get water in the basement, how y'all want to handle the mixing of the chemicals that accumulates in the basement?
Yeah, we thought of that. We will just remove the water as it comes out and place it into our process and place it into the tank and solidify it with the soil. It's not ideal. It's the same thing with firefighting water. I mean, we don't really have a choice. We just have to deal with Mother Nature as she comes and set up a system to do it. Hopefully, we will not have a lot of broken containers in the building, so it'll just be water. You know, our plan is to disturb the containers as little as possible before we actually move them out and put them in the box.
There's one up here.
One.
What are the access boundaries to get through? Where are the stop and starting parts that'll be blocked?
Chief Mobley, what are those two streets at the ends?
It's Acme and no, it's way up. Yeah, it's Timmy. Yeah.
Yes.
Timmy Lane and Acme.
Yes, thank you. Somebody over here. Yes.
I am but one person.
After the removal of his driveway because of the mercury that was found, was there follow-up testing, and was there any results as far as groundwater mercury?
So the mercury was at the house next door, there at the corner at 6211. The concrete was pulled up on its way to a landfill. We didn't test the soil or anything underneath because the mercury won't penetrate the concrete. It won't go through. And it wasn't spread across the concrete all the way to the edges. So it was localized just on the concrete. So that I would not expect there to be any lingering contamination from the mercury at all. And our air monitoring and everything supports that, so.
I am willing to walk around, it's okay.
What's going to happen to the property in 6211?
She's going to sell it.
I mean, right? I mean,
No, she-
it's a mess over there too.
Well, if you've noticed, there's been some cleanup on that side as well. So just to help the process with 6213 and Chuck and his crews, they're going to be continuing to clean up some of that as well.
So you're all not going to demolish it or tear down that house there, so it's.
Nope, she'll have it better than before we left it because I'm throwing away all of her stuff that her mother left.
Any idea who owns that house now?
Yeah, the owner of 6211, she's still alive.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, she's in a home.
Yes.
Her sister's her caretaker, I'm sorry, her daughter. Yeah. I'm sorry, say that again?
That house is going to stay there.
Yes.
Yeah, the house will stay there. The house will be there when we're gone. I need to pour some concrete back on her walkway to replace it, but I didn't want to pour it back right now because it's behind a fence and I have to schedule it. It was just easier to do it when we're done. So that's all.
Well, can I ask you one more question?
Yeah, sure.
What's going to happen to the property in 6213? When you own it all, and I know everything's going to be taken care of, who owns it?
Mr. Heibel. He still owns the property.
Who's out to keep it clean and grass?
Mr. Heibel.
I understand.
I mean, I'm sorry. That's probably a better question for Louisville Metro, but I mean, just
No, he owns
we
the
are not taking possession and ownership of the property from Mr. Heibel. He's merely giving us access to the property to do what we need to do. That's all. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It may be.
Somebody was back there, I think.
I have two questions. Of the 500 to 1,000 vials of white powder, do you think they are all the same? And has he told you what those are? Or can you say?
I can only say that he has not told me what is in all of them. I would suspect that it would be very difficult for anyone to catalog and identify all of them because there are just so many. But perhaps he has an eidetic memory and can tell me everything in there. I would be surprised. But it's not just small bottles. It's pressure cookers. It's crock pots. It's refilled pill bottles. It's refilled soap containers. It's sample jars. It's everything. Any container you could possibly imagine has been refilled with something. So there are liquids, there are solids, there's gels, there's all sorts of stuff. And it's all piled up in boxes 3 feet high.
And can you say why he was doing all this?
No.
You don't know or you can't say?
That's part of the criminal investigation. And while she's walking up here too, I will say I know that Halloween's coming up. So there may be some concerns with kids walking around. Like Chuck said, they're not going to be on at night. Okay, so they don't,
Yeah.
but regardless.
I've walked up and down it during the day and I'm scared.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is wow.
We'll help with communication on that. Oh,
Thank you for helping.
well, thank you, buddy.
Certainly welcome, man.
If nobody's got any more questions, that's a great place to end.
Yeah.
And we'll be around, Chuck and I will be around to answer any questions if anything comes up. We really appreciate you all
I do
coming
want to say
again.
before we go, if you're in this area and you have something you want to talk about, perhaps you're worried about evacuations, but you got medical issues or whatever, and you want to talk to us one-on-one, we're absolutely available to do that anytime. We also have, as you see up here, the response.gov Applegate Lane containers. You got contact information on there, and you can shoot me an email, and I'll certainly respond, and we can discuss whatever it is y'all need. Okay.
Take a fact sheet, take a map.
That's right.
And all this information is on the fact sheet as well.
There's a better map outside. You can find your house on it, and there's also they're printed out, and you can take them with you. But there's also a sign-up sheet and some fact sheets that has a lot of that information, and you can go online. Plus information about exactly what sheltering in place means. from FEMA, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.